Hello, 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 and welcome to the third revelation. Look at you. Look at you. You are up in this thing now. You are up in this thing. You have conquered a long-standing fear. You have made a commitment to your goal, and now you are in your third revelation, and we're about to dig deeper and get into forgiveness and perseverance. So I want you to give yourself a hand because I am proud of you and I'm excited for you. And let's get up into the third revelation, which is forgiveness. So if you're watching this video, it means you have completed the first and second revelation, and that means you have completed all of the first revelation, all of the second revelation, including your challenges. If you have not done all of those things, I've said this before and I will continue to say it, please go back, complete those. This plan is designed so that each one of these milestones happen before you get onto the next revelation. So please do not shortcut your transformation. You are worth this transformation. You are worth the restoration that is happening. Do not shortcut it. We will be here. So go back and finish all the things you need to finish. And remember, my long-standing rule is you must complete your challenges before you move on to the next revelation. So if you've done everything, if you've done it all, I want to welcome you to perseverance and forgiveness. So this week, you will read the third revelation. You will read the third revelation commentary. You will answer the third revelation journal questions, and then you will stop in the name of love. I know I can't sing, but I guess I'm making it a little habit. There's something about when I see the word stop or hear the word stop, it makes me want to do that song. So I apologize ahead of time. All right, so let's talk about forgiveness. So forgiveness is a very weighty topic. Would you agree? Yes, it's a very weighty topic. And I want to talk about, along with talking about forgiveness, I want to talk about some misnomers about forgiveness because I believe that there's a lot of misinformation surrounding forgiveness. So as we talk about forgiveness, I want to talk about what forgiveness is not, okay? Okay, so first, forgiveness does not mean that you are okay with what someone did to you, or that you are okay with the situation that happened. That's not what forgiveness means. So a lot of people, sometimes they don't want to forgive because they feel like, well, if I forgive, that means I'm okay with what they did. No, if someone lied to you, if someone deceived you, if someone hurt you, if someone betrayed you, that behavior is never going to be okay, nor should it. What forgiveness is, I believe, forgiveness is releasing the need to get vengeance or pay them back or hold it over their head or punish them for what they did. Because we all have those little ways that even with somebody we love, a good friend or a family member, we are hurt or offended. And so we kind of punish them in little ways. So forgiveness is releasing the need to punish them for what they did. It's releasing holding grudges. It is not letting fury or anger or hurt or bitterness prevent you from moving forward in your own personal life. And forgiveness is also not something where you're so angry that you can no longer interact with this person in a mature, civil, adult way. So I'm going to say that again for the seats in the back. Forgiveness is releasing the need to give vengeance or pay them back. It's releasing the need to hold something over somebody's head or punish them for what they did or holding a grudge. Forgiveness for you is also no longer letting fury or anger or hurt prevent you from moving forward in your personal life or prevent you from interacting with somebody who hurt you in a mature adult civil way. It doesn't mean you guys are going to be friends or buddies, but it means that you can interact if you have to. Sometimes divorce people do this, sometimes business people do it. You forgive and you're not rehearsing that. You're not holding that and playing those images of what they did and why they did it over and over again in your mind. That's what forgiveness is, when you release that. So forgiveness does not automatically mean a reintroduction of unity or intimacy. No. Unity and intimacy have one important factor, and that is trust. And trust comes with honesty and truth. So I want to give you an example of that. Say there is somebody who hurt you and deceived you and betrayed you, right? And you decide, I'm going to forgive this person. I'm going to forgive them. I am not going to rehearse what they did. I'm not going to let myself get filled up with bitterness or anger. I've decided to forgive them. But it doesn't mean that you trust that person again. It doesn't mean that you let that person into a place of intimacy because, like I said, these things involve truth. So I'm going to give you two scenarios. Say that a person who did this, who you want to forgive, but they don't admit what they've done. They don't take ownership of it. They don't acknowledge the hurt or the pain they've caused, or how they were deceitful, or whatever the thing is. They don't acknowledge any of that. You can still forgive that person. You've chosen to let yourself out of the prison of anger or unforgiveness or rehearsing the thing that they did and all the things that happened. You've chosen, I'm not going to carry this over my head or their head. You can forgive them, but it doesn't mean that you trust this person, because there is no trust without truth. There has to be truth. There is no intimacy without trust. So if this person is not walking in truth and not owning what they did, you can forgive them, but it does not mean you trust them. You let them into a place in your heart where you trust again, or you let them into an intimate place in your heart. Now, flip scenario. Say that there's somebody in your life who completely owns what they did. They've apologized to it, and they've turned away from that behavior. That's something that they don't want to do, a person that they don't want to be anymore. They've earnestly apologized to you. You've accepted their apology. You want to forgive them, and you've decided to forgive them. Still, trust is something that's earned over time. It doesn't mean that the day that they gave you that sincere apology and the day that you accepted it and decided to forgive them, that you now magically trust them again. No, trust is something that you have to build over time. Intimacy is something that occurs when you trust someone. So I want you to understand, because sometimes we feel like we can't forgive if we don't want to trust or bring that person back into our lives. That's not true. You can forgive, but it takes time for someone who hurt you to re-earn your trust, to re-earn that spot of intimacy. But if you forgive, you're not holding it over their head. You're not trying to punish them. You're not trying to seek revenge. Okay? I hope I made that clear. So let me go into the next thing. And I also want to say this, because what happens to us when we're holding on to those things, we think that we're hurting that person, or we think that we're affecting them with our unforgiveness. And maybe you could be making them sad, or if they seek your forgiveness and you haven't given it. But the primary person, I promise you, the primary person you're hurting is yourself. When you hold on to anger, when you hold on to bitterness or revenge in your heart, you create dis-ease in your body. It is literally how things that are not healthy for you begin to grow. When you hold on to anger or bitterness or revenge in your heart, you create dis-ease. And those emotions interrupt your ability to live in the present, because you're constantly rehashing what happened and how awful it was and why did they do that and I didn't deserve that and how could they have done that. So when you feel that way and you hold on to those feelings, what's happening is you're living in the past, because that's where the incident occurred in the past. They hurt you in the past. It happened either 5 minutes ago, yesterday, a couple of months, a couple of years. So if I'm rehearsing everything they did, I'm living in the past. I'm not living in the present, and the past doesn't exist anymore. So now I'm literally living in a place that no longer exists, because I'm so caught up with my anger and my bitterness. It is literally preventing me from living in what is the only gift I have, which is the present. Because I'm not in the future. If I'm plotting some type of revenge or whatever, the future's not here. It doesn't exist. The past no longer exists. The only thing that truly exists is the present. So when we're rehearsing or nurturing or lamenting about something that somebody did, that the mistake they made, and it could be egregious, the thing that they did that hurt us, we're living in the past. We're not living in the present. The present is where your healing is too. The present is where you can begin to open your heart and get healing over what they did. But you can't get that if you're still living in the past. The past doesn't exist. You're back there. The present is where your healing is. And if you're plotting in the future and how this is never going to happen and how I can never be, then the future's not here yet either. It hasn't been given. So I urge you to release those things for your own benefit. You have to release it because you deserve to live in the present. So forgiveness is not only releasing the need to give vengeance or to punish or to pay them back, it's also releasing the hold bitterness and anger have over you and allowing yourself to fully live in the present where your power exists, where you exist to fully live your life with healing and with joy, okay? So the second or third misnomer that I've heard about forgiveness is that forgiveness doesn't include boundaries. Yes, the hell it does sometimes. It absolutely does include boundaries. In fact, boundaries are our friends. So let's say that together. Boundaries are our friends. Let's say, for instance, you have a family member or a friend with a drug problem. And unfortunately, that's not fun to think of, but that is some of our reality. Some of us know and love somebody with a drug problem. So we understand that this is a sickness, and during this time, that they're not thinking in their right mind and they're not making healthy or good decisions. But let's say this person who has this drug problem stole from you. So you may forgive them because you understand that they're not in a healthy state of mind or being in this moment. So I'm going to forgive them. I'm not going to hold a grudge. I'm not going to hold this against them. I'm going to forgive. But this, for the same reasons that you are forgiving, which is understanding that they're not in a healthy state of mind, is the same reasons that you must impose boundaries. Because if somebody, and we're still on the same scenario, has a drug problem or whatever, there have to be some boundaries. And maybe the boundaries is they can't come into your house or be around your family at this time. It doesn't mean you don't love them. It doesn't mean you don't forgive them for what they did. But there have to be healthy boundaries born out of wisdom to protect yourself, not in a fear-based way, but in an understanding that this person cannot be this close to me at this time. I cannot trust them with certain things, so I have to put up boundaries, okay? Because you understand that if you did let them in, that they would violate your trust. So you can probably put that scenario on other things. It doesn't even have to be somebody with a drug problem. It can be somebody who, I don't know, you decide for your life, but who you know at this time you may forgive for what they did, but you need to put up a boundary and say, I can't trust you in this area right now or ever, because who they are may just be, unfortunately, somebody who can't be trusted with that thing, okay? Because trust, as I said, must be earned. You can forgive someone, and that may take a while, but trust and intimacy must be re-earned. And it can only be re-earned when you are dealing with truth with somebody, when somebody is acknowledging the truth of what they did. Okay, so now let's talk about boundaries. And look at the time. Okay, so let's talk about boundaries. Boundaries are not motivated out of fear, because that's not forgiveness. Forgiveness boundaries are motivated out of wisdom. If you got hurt in some way and you decide to forever put up a wall around your heart, so to make yourself less vulnerable in order to avoid getting hurt again, and you think you're creating a boundary, but your boundary is motivated out of fear. So you're not creating a boundary. What you're doing is building a prison around yourself so you don't get hurt again. And that's no good. So, because then when you build a prison around yourself, you will allow that person or that situation that caused the pain to block you from experiencing all that life has to offer, because now you're building a prison thinking you're building a boundary. So when you place a boundary, be sure it's not placed out of fear. For example, let's talk about heartbreak. Say that somebody broke your heart, someone you loved, and they broke your heart, and you decided, I'm never gonna love again. That's not a boundary. That's you putting up a wall and building a prison. That's something motivated out of fear, not motivated out of a love of yourself and a wisdom gleaned from the experience you were in. I want to give you another example, but let's stop for a second and go to the next video.